And there we go. And go live. Let me see if everything works. Yep. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom. You are on YouTube and Facebook, if I'm correct. So yes, we have both online now. The first thing we always ask is, how is the audio? We did change a few things around because we have been troublesome with our audio for the last few episodes, and I think the last episode we actually nailed it by using another interface for the audio, so routing that separately. So the audio should be a lot louder and without any distortion this time, which of course is a big plus. So if in the chat you guys can let me know if there is no problems with the audio, we can actually start our episode. So let's see if we have our chats here. Live chat. Okay, awesome. And can you hear the audio on your side?
Yeah.
And that's okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so today we have a Digital Classroom episode that's a little bit different. We're not going to talk about retouching in Lightroom on the computer. We're not going to use Photoshop on the computer. We're actually going to do something completely different. Actually something that if you asked me 2 years or 3 years ago, I would have said, are you mad? Because I'm never going to do that. We're going to talk about doing the whole professional retouching on an iPad. But it is the iPad Pro, of course. Doesn't really matter, but hey. Sounds nice, right? Pro. Just put Pro behind or before it and it's always great. So let's go to our Pro trailer for Pro Digital Classroom. If I can find the trailer. There we go. Okay, so why the mobile workflow? Over the years, of course, a lot of things change. And one of the things that actually changes is, of course, how you approach your photography. Now, one of the things that made a huge difference, of course, was going digital. Now, before you have, of course, film cameras, or in other words, analog photography. And analog photography actually means that you take the picture and you don't see what you're doing. You can use, of course, a Polaroid, or you can use whatever you want, but it's still a guessing game. You never really saw the picture. Now, as soon as we went into digital photography, a lot of things changed, and for my feeling, actually also the quality went whoops all the way down, for the very simple reason people saw immediately what they took as a picture. So in other words, you take the picture, you look at the back of your camera and you go like, yeah, it's okay. So at that point there was also less interest in learning about lighting, because, well, you just place your lighting, you take some pictures and it's okay, and people are very, very easily satisfied with that. So over the years, with digital photography, there was a huge shift. But after that, it didn't really move on that fast. Of course, we went for mirrorless. And then at one point, you have this company called Adobe. And they brought out, of course, Photoshop, which changed the whole industry. The whole industry was changed because Photoshop made it possible to actually retouch your images. You don't have to go into the darkroom anymore. You can do it in Lightroom, or you can do it in Photoshop. And at that point, only Photoshop. Now, if you ever worked with the first version of Photoshop, which luckily I didn't, but I know the guys that wrote it, there was no going back. Can you imagine that? So you do something and there's no going back. So if you clone, was there a clone tool? I don't even know. But if you do something and you do it wrong, well, you can start all over again. The only problem is, I hope you saved that original image, because it was all destructive. Nowadays, of course, we work with RAW files. And in fact, if you look at nowadays, the phones, they actually shoot with 108 megapixels. Only 12, but okay, it sounds right. 108 megapixels. So if you look at all the presentations from Apple or Samsung, those cameras are better than professional cameras, right? Yeah, no. We tested it over the last week, and we have now the Samsung Ultra 22 here, and it's a great camera, don't get me wrong, for social media. It's one of the best cameras out there, I think, for social media. It's not a professional camera. So is that whole mobile stuff, is that suitable for professional? You might wonder, right? When I bought my first iPad Pro, it was actually a 12.9 inch, I believe, or a 12 inch, I don't remember. The thing that frustrated the living daylights out of me was that there were no apps. It was just a blown up iPhone. And, well, for that kind of money, I did like the Apple Pencil idea, but there wasn't anything there, maybe a drawing app. But as a photographer, big letdown. At one point, Adobe decided to create Lightroom for mobile. That didn't go well either. For the very simple reason, you could only load in one catalog. It was slow as could be, and there was no real integration between your Lightroom on the computer and your Lightroom on mobile. In other words, it just sucked. Didn't work at all. But things change over time. At one point, Adobe announced Photoshop for the iPad. I was just going like, first fix Lightroom. They did. So at this point, we are talking about 2022, and we have an iPad Pro in an M1 processor. That means that they're faster than most Intel laptops. I can confirm this. We do almost all video editing 4K on an iPad Pro, and it's faster than on an i9 Dell laptop. That's insane, just on your iPad. Battery runs forever. So doesn't it feel like it's maybe something for a professional workflow if it's that fast and you have that Apple Pencil? Yes, with Lightroom Classic on the computer and Lightroom on your mobile devices, and of course also on the computer, we now for the first time have a total integrated workflow. In other words, I can use Lightroom Classic and make a module in there that actually syncs with my Lightroom Mobile. It's now called Lightroom CC, but it's actually the old Lightroom Mobile. We can now sync those together. There's no more limitations in there. There's still some limitations, but not a lot. But also Lightroom in the past was for me something where my images lived. It was not something that I used for retouching. It's where my images lived, where I can make smart albums, give stars and whatnot more. Nowadays with local adjustments, you know, we are getting a really, really good deal because it's not layers, but it almost looks like layers. Now, if you see the new Lightroom, you might actually think that all those local adjustments, they do look a lot like layer masks, right? So you're not working with layers, but you are working with layer masks. That sounds interesting, right? Now, I'm not going to tell you that you can do the same thing as you can do in Photoshop. No way. No filters, no other stuff. But hey, we sometimes don't need that, right? We just need something that works. So over the last months and actually over the last few years, I've set myself a challenge to do something with Lightroom on the iPad Pro and see if I could actually leave my laptop alone and do everything on Lightroom Mobile. And that's a bit of a challenge because, let's be honest, you have to switch everything over. No plugins like exposure software, DxO. I have to do everything bare bones. So I started building my preset pack for Lightroom. I started building a workflow for Lightroom. And at this point, I think we're almost ready. I say almost ready. I always take a little bit of a back step. I'm almost ready to do this fully professional without the use of computers. Now, I'm still going to use Lightroom Classic, of course, on the computer where my images live. So that's where my DAS is connected, where the NAS is connected, where we make all the backups. We still need it on the computer. But everything else we're going to do on the iPad Pro. And today we have something really special for you guys planned. And I'm already regretting it probably because with these kinds of things, everything can go wrong. We have our model Claudia here. And what we're going to do is we're going to first do a photo shoot. And that's going to take about maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, I don't know. We're going to see maybe 10 minutes, maybe whatever. And we're going to do 3 or 4 different looks. And after that, I'm going to show you how I empty the cards on the iPad Pro. Now, don't think I'm just going to put it into Lightroom and import. No, we're going to show you how I do it. And that means that I also need to batch rename images. And there's a lot of stuff that's really interesting that's coming up. And after that, I'm going to select some images and I'm going to show you how I retouch those on the iPad Pro, including skin retouching. Because you might wonder, how the heck is going to do skin retouching? It is possible. So, I think we are done. Now, overall, in the chat, let me see if I have the right chat up, because it's very quiet in the chat, and normally there are a lot of people in the chat. So, let me see if I have we have the top chat in there and the normal chat. So, let's just show all. There we go. Okay. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, and I will answer them. Of course, Emmeloord is also here. So, Emmeloord is going to take over from me for the cameras. And then we're going to do the photo shoot, and I think that you are ready for it? Yes. Awesome! She is ready for it, so now I have to be ready for it. First things first. Let me switch over to my software, and I'm going to show you what we're going to use. Now, normally you see Lightroom. Today I'm going to shoot with Smart Shooter 4 for the very simple reason. Smart Shooter 4 is a little bit faster with tethering, and because we're going to do all the retouching on the computer, or sorry, on the iPad Pro, I don't need Lightroom in this case on the computer, so I'm just going to shoot to Smart Shooter. super fast, and it works with the Sony flawlessly. When I shoot into Lightroom, there's always a very, very slight delay compared to Smart Shooter. So today we're going to use Smart Shooter. The other thing about it is make sure on your camera and on the Sonys you can set this up that they leave the raw files on the card. Because you can also set up that everything is sent to the computer. You can set up that only small JPEGs are sent to the computer, for example if you shoot wireless, or you can send the raw files to the computer and leave the raw files on the card. Of course, in this case, when you shoot with a wire, it's very important to leave the raw files on the camera and send them to the computer. So, I think we are ready. Annemiek, are you ready to take over for me?
One of the cameras is flickering.
Yeah, one of the cameras is flickering, so I don't know what to do about that. So that's your job. So, I am gonna take some pictures. I don't know which camera it is. Probably that one. This one. So.
Blue one.
Okay, then just take the HDMI out and put it in again, Annemiek, if you want. Okay, then I will look here. Okay, guys, one moment. We're gonna try to reconnect one of the cameras very quickly. And let's see if that works. And if not, we're gonna do it with one less. Now, let's hope that it works, Annemiek, and we'll see. Okay, so you can change the cameras, and let me walk over there. So, and of course, Chewy will stay on the floor. I would say, please stand over there. Okay, so one of the first things, of course, we have to do is find a backdrop. Now, in this case, we just use one of our studio walls. Now, our studio walls are painted in very special ways. And the reason for this is I love structure, and as soon as I see structure in a wall, that's something that really triggers my mind for shadows, for three-dimensionality. Because if you see shadow, that actually gives you real life information. Of course, when you use a backdrop that's totally flat, like seamless, there's no depth. Then you have to create depth with your model. But how about a really nice and rough backdrop where you can actually also create three-dimensionality by using, for example, side lighting, main lighting, or whatever. It's just cool. Okay, so in this case, we are using a very large softbox, 90 centimeters. It's not very, very large, but for me it's large. I don't like big softboxes. And inside we have a grid. I can't show you that now, but there's a grid inside. What the grid does, it actually channels the lights towards the model, but it also makes it possible for me to create a sort of a vignette on the backdrop. So if I ask Claudia to step one step further towards me, very, very nice. Stay there. We're going to take out the light meter. And what we're going to do is, let me see, where's the trigger? Over there. Going to meter the light on our model. And Annemiek, I believe, is changing one of the HDMI cables. Okay, let's switch over to ISO 100.
Just a second, Frank, I'm changing the...
Oh, that's my camera? Yeah. Okay, Annemiek is changing the image, so if you don't see any image at the moment, don't stress. I'm just gonna meter the light for now. Okay, 5.69, so that's f8. Is that better, Annemiek? Annemiek, it takes a few seconds. Is that better? Okay, so I'm going to focus on that camera now. Hi guys. So that's the worst camera we have, so that's awesome. So we're going to use that one. In the meantime, I hope that Annemiek will find a solution for this. So let me meter the light. Of course, you aim towards the light source in most cases. That's what you hear from a lot of people, right? But that's actually not true. What you do with metering the light is actually, it's an incident meter. So you hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. In the studio, in most cases, that actually means that you're aiming towards your light source because, hey, that's why the light source is there, right? So 5.69, I pressed 1/10 up, so that's actually f8. So I'm going to set it up on f8 and we're going to take the shot. And let's see what happens. Okay. I'm going to shoot from a slightly lower angle, because that sometimes gives me just a little bit more power in the shot. F8. And there you go. Now, the first thing you will see when we look at this, Annemiek, are you okay with the cameras?
I don't know.
Because the high cam is not on me yet. So, guys, one moment, please. Annemiek is trying to fix everything.
Ja, het beeld is
Okay, so as you can see here, we now have that nice vignette around our model. And that's one of the things that I love about using the grid. It really narrows that light down. And as you can see also now, the image isn't really sharp. I don't know why it's, this is one of those days. So, but you see the image. So let's see what happens. Really nice. So we're going to take a few shots like this. Nice. Awesome. Look towards the light if you want. Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to change to the high cam and we stop figuring out high cam now. So as you can see here, we do have several different shots. But let's just change something. Let's just change accent lighting to give it a little bit more swung. I will help Anouk out because otherwise it's going wrong. Let's move the high cam. Anouk, can you move the high cam that you see me? So guys, one moment. This is one of the main disadvantages of shooting something live. So Anouk, is the high cam now on me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to change that a little bit around. So now that's my camera. We'll just figure it out as we go. Okay, so overall, don't look at the pixelated image. It's one of those days. But as you can see here, there is enough depth because we now actually see that our backdrop gets a little bit of lighting. Now let's say that we want a little bit more light on our backdrop. How do we do it? We actually only have to aim the light slightly up. And at that point, we're using the bottom part of the strobe on our model. And there will be a little bit more light on the backdrop. Watch this. So now we have a little bit more light on the backdrop. If you like this, it's very easy, just move it up or angle it down. So there's a lot of options here. But I want a little bit more light. So let's add a strip light. So let's go from here. Just add that from the side. Okay, there we go. Now with the accent lighting, for me that's a little bit like cooking. A little bit more pepper, a little bit more salt. It's not something that I really meter for the very simple reason. Sometimes with a more dark skin model, you want a little bit more accent light. And sometimes with a fair skin model, you just want a little bit less. If somebody has dark hair, it's nicer to have a little bit more. If somebody is blonde, a little bit less. So the main light I always meter, that's for me the most important light. That one has to be perfect. But the accent light, that's always a little bit like go with the flow. Just try it out. Okay, let's see. Really nice. Okay, and overall I think we can do with a little bit more. So let's move on this part and let's just go here. Nice. Okay. Love the pose. Nice. Okay, I think this gives a little bit more side lighting, yes. And this just pops her just loose a little bit better. Really nice. Let's do some poses with this. Nice. Love it. Yes. Great. Cool. Okay, change very quickly. And then we're going to do something against the more bad wall. So if you move there, I'm going to change this one away. I'm going to take our strip light only. Because this is a little bit more harsher, so I want a different quality. Okay, let me go very quickly in here. And let me just see why the image is pixelated. There we go, that's better. Maybe the loop has to be in. Okay, so next setup. Quick change in outfit by just losing the jacket. No, great. And now stand against the really rough part of the wall. Okay, now when we look at strip lights, one of the things that I love about strip lights is that they're really tall and they're really, really small. So tall and small. But there's something else with the strip light. The strip light you can use in many, many different ways. But the most fun way, I think, is to use it as 3 separate softboxes. I've explained this before in a digital classroom by Switching our strip light to the side, you might say that we actually have one a little bit darker, and very, very bright. And this is because there is, of course, a grid in the strip light. Now, if there's not a grid in the strip light, it will actually even out nicely. But because there's a grid and all the holes are actually standing right up, so it's not fanned out, you will get a little bit less light here and a little bit less light here. You might say, Frank, isn't that a disadvantage? Yes and no. If you use it standing up, so in portrait mode, you have to make sure that the model is in the center. So that means that you lose some of your strip light on the top. For the very simple reason, if you use it like this, the middle is on the chest area of the model, and mostly we want light on the face and not on the chest, right? Unless you're doing glamour photography maybe, then it's, but you know, today it's fashion. So we're going to change it over a little bit. We're going to do it like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one part of my softbox to actually light the backdrop and one part for a model. And it depends on what I want. In this case, I want the backdrop to be visible. I don't want it to be very, very bright, but I want it to be visible. That means that I place my model against the center of the strip light, because the center of the strip light is more bright than the other part, so the wall will be slightly darker. If I place my model all the way to the front of the strip light, so we have two darker areas, that actually means that the middle part will just go through. It doesn't really register, but the front will light the model, the back will light the model, both about equal, so the backdrop will be about equally lit as the model, depending on the distance, of course. That's the theory. Let's try it out. So let's aim it up and then angle it down close to the wall, and of course we have to pick up the light meter. Are the cameras now okay, Annemiek?
No, I will change the table.
Okay, then do it. Okay, hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. 4.02, so I'm going to down 2/10, so I'm going to go to f4. So you can see this is a lot less light than the big softbox. Okay, just look down a little bit. There we go, awesome. Love it. Let's do a little bit of a Rembrandt Triangle. Can you tilt your body that way so we can see the tattoo a little bit better? Really nice. Okay, and the more I move this way, the flatter the light will be. So we look all the way towards the light. That's awesome. Okay, arms crossed. Nice. And maybe a little bit flatter light can be awesome. Look at that, wow. Really like this. But maybe also make it more contrasty by moving this way. I don't want the softbox in the picture. Ooh, look at that. That's freaking awesome. Love it. And of course in the center, can also do some fun stuff. Okay, look that way again. Can you step a little bit that way? Perfect. Love it. Just a little bit more power. Nice. Okay, and by moving around I can literally control my contrast, going from more flat to, of course, nice and high contrasty, almost like a Rembrandt lighting. Love it. Okay, let's go for something really extreme. Next outfit. So now change outfits. You have about 5 minutes for this. I'm going to do some questions and answers while Annemiek is figuring out what to do with the cameras. I love live streams. Okay, let's switch over to my camera. And let's see. Okay, when we go through the images, what you can see is that we actually have a lot of control over those images. So let's just go all the way back. Let's just make picture-in-picture a little bit smaller. Okay, it seems that the new cable works, Annemiek, so that's awesome. Okay, when we started out, that was with the big softbox, you can actually see that we have a nice vignette around our model. So that's okay. So all those images are okay. However, I do miss some depth, some three-dimensionality. And that's actually why we started adding that backlighting. And that backlighting isn't really... Sorry, guys. The backlighting isn't really to show a hard accent in this case. Sometimes it's really there for a hard accent. In this case, we don't really want that hard accent. We just want it a little bit less. So, sorry. Okay, so as soon as we start adding that accent light, you can immediately see that the image gets a little bit of a different look, as you can see here. Here it's a little bit too low on output, so we're going to just add it a little bit more. As you can see here, we started raising that strobe a little bit. And over here, when you compare it to the first ones, it's very, very subtle. But for me, it just lifts that image from literally like, yeah, to something where I go like, yeah, okay, here I have a little bit more depth. And the cool thing about this kind of stuff is it shouldn't really draw the attention of the viewer. The viewer should just go and look like, yeah, that's one strobe. But for you as a photographer, it's important that you mix those strobes together. And sometimes there's a time where you can really see those accent lights shining up. And sometimes there's a time where you don't want them to show up, but you just want a very, very subtle, like almost intertwined light setup. I hope it makes sense if I tell you guys that. So, okay, can you, in the chat, Jeroen, for example, can you confirm that the audio is not clipping and that it's okay? Because we're using a rather heavy compressor at the moment and it shouldn't clip at all, even when I'm enthusiastic. Okay, so after that, we started to do it with the strip light. And the thing about the strip light is, with the strip light, you have those three strobes inside there, right? The little darker twos, and then the one in the middle that's a little bit more powerful. And as you can see here, because I'm using it a little bit in the mix, I got a nice detail on the backdrop, and I got my model nicely lit. Also, I'm shooting on f4. Now, for example, if you are a beginner photographer, it's always a little bit difficult to remember, so let me just give you a little bit of advice there. If you start out with photography, I thought that one of the most difficult things to understand was actually aperture. I found it very, very, thank you, Jeroen. I found it very, very weird that, for example, 2.8 gave me a lot of light. Why not f16? Because 16 is a higher number, so more light, right? You always have to remember that the lower the f-stop, the bigger the hole is in your lens. And there's a few things that happens when that hole gets bigger. One, of course, you get more light in, for the very simple reason, bigger hole. The other thing is, there's something else that happens. When you start to focus your camera, there's always these shutter blades. And the shutter blades actually contract or open up. And if you shoot wide open, you have a nice open, well, aperture. The more you close in, the more those shutter blades will actually start to close in, and that can actually create some form of, and we call it bokeh. I hope I pronounce it correct, bokeh. And that's the backdrop. So the more you open up your lens, the more the backdrop will get out of focus and your model will get in focus, as you can see here. So if I shoot something like this, for example, on f16, everything will be sharp, front and back. This is why, in this case, I shot it on f4 to make sure that the backdrop is nice, out of focus, just a little bit soft, and the model really pops up. So compare that to the previous one. This was f8. Here you can see that the backdrop is nice and sharp, and the model also pops out. But it's different from, for example, this shot, where the backdrop is nice, out of focus, and the model just is way better. So we got some nice shots here. And overall, what I like to do is always get that nice triangle on our face. If I shoot from the sides, I always want that, we call it the Rembrandt Triangle. So it's not always there, but sometimes it is. And when it's there, I really like it. But sometimes I also shoot way from the side to get that really nice contrast lighting in, as you can see here. I also love this. There we go. As you can see, by playing with a shirt or a jacket in this case, or maybe something, whatever you have laying around, you can do so much with clothing. And I think one of the things that I sometimes tell my models, especially when they do, for example, glamour photography, is take a men's shirt. Because you can photograph a model in a beautiful dress or create something cool with styling, but sometimes less is more. And just a white men's shirt with buttons, you can create such a nice mood with it. You can make it very, very sexy without seeing anything. And with a jacket, for example, a leather jacket or a jean jacket, you can just throw it over your shoulders. You can do the fun style, of course, with the collar up. There's so much that you can do to really enhance that look, like Claudia actually did. But what if we change our model totally over, for example, into the 50s style with all kinds of weird color schemes? And yeah, in other words, she is ready. So let's change over. I'm going to take a zip and then we're going to go. Okay, we're going to switch over to the bigger picture in picture. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to switch over the cameras. Awesome. Okay, wow, love the clothing. Awesome. This is going to be fun. So for this I want something really harsh. I really want to pop you out. I want to pop you out of the frame. Okay, so we're going to do something a little bit different for this one. Oh yeah, let's turn it off. That really helps a lot by saving energy. So, okay, let me move this one a little bit further away so that camera also works. Okay, so the beauty dish. Now the beauty dish, without any doubt, if you only buy one accessory, it's the beauty dish. And a strobe, of course, otherwise you don't, yeah, you can't use the beauty dish. But the beauty dish is awesome. The beauty dish is actually a sort of reflector, but it's different. Let me take the grid off so you guys can see. Now, let's go. One of the big advantages of a normal strobe is, of course, that you have the modeling light, you have the strobe, and then it fires out and you get the full blast of light. With a beauty dish, something else happens. We want to make sure that you get a nice, crisp quality of light. Now, if you use silver inlays, you always get a little bit of a harsher quality of light, so nicer shadows in my case, and a little bit harsher image quality, so specular highlights are a little bit nicer. If this is white, the shadows will be softer in my case. I don't like that much, and the specular highlights will also be softer. But the main thing for a beauty dish is actually the deflector here. So we have the modeling light behind it and, of course, the strobe. It fires into the deflector and then it goes back into the dish and then it gets thrown out. That makes it possible to make beauty dishes really narrow, not deep, and of course create a nice even spread of light, which hence the name beauty dish. They're beautiful and they really capture your audio. In this case we want to use a grid in front of it to make sure that I really narrow my my beam of light. Oh, totally nervous about the cameras. And of course we need power. So let's find an outlet. There we go. Awesome. Okay. Now of course we want it a little bit higher than this and aiming down at our model. But maybe we don't want it. Because aiming down at your model, we did that with the other lights, right? Maybe in this case we want a little bit more side lighting. And side lighting, of course, is awesome because with side lighting you create depth, you create shadows, you create three-dimensionality. So let's move it a little bit on the side. Make sure it's tightened. Okay, move a little bit that way. Awesomeness. Thank you. Let's aim it down. Now it's on 10. That's the nuclear setting, so we don't want to do that. So it's going to be way too loud. Or too full. Okay. Awesome. Here, let's test. There we go. And it's really nice and close. Okay, let's find that light meter again. And the light meter, guys, I can't stress how easy a light meter is. It's not something that will make you a better photographer. It will just make you way more faster and more accurate because you can repeat your shots. Oui. 16.5. That's a lot. Let's go down. A lot. Let's go down to the lowest setting because I don't want a lot of depth of field in this case. And by going to the lowest setting on the strobe, you have the less light, so you can shoot with wide open apertures. On my camera I can even go down to ISO 50 if I really want it, But in most cases, on the lowest setting, these handles will have more than enough to give you like f4 or sometimes even 2.8. And in this case, f8, because I'm using the beauty dish. And the beauty dish really channels that light, so it gives you a lot of light. So on the lowest setting, f8. We have to work with it for now. Okay. Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to set it on f8. Okay, in the first shot, we're just going to take straight on. So I'm going to ask my model to look a little bit here. And there we go. Okay, as you can see here, the grid really does its work. We really have our model jumping out of the frame. There's a nice vignette around our model. The only problem is, I would like to see a little bit more of our model because she's beautiful, right? She's a beautiful dress, and now I only see part of it. But that part that I see, I really find interesting. I love the contrast there. I just love the whole shot. So if I want to see a little bit more, I'll just move it a little bit back. Correct it. Officially, I should remeter. I'm not going to do that now because it's a live stream. But officially, you should remeter. Which I now already regret that I didn't. This is why you should use a light meter. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, so now we have a little bit more light on our whole model. Maybe it's a little bit too much, maybe it's a little bit too little. That depends on your own personal style. If you want that vignette to be more aggressive, move the light closer. If you want that vignette to be a little bit more wider, move the light back. In my case, let's move it a little bit closer. And let's go back to f8. Okay, let's find some images. Yeah, I really like this. Okay, let's add a little bit of contrast. Nice. Love it. But it's a little bit boring. Don't you agree? Don't you agree? We can do much better, right? We rock. Yeah. Anyway, can you run the Instagram filter, please?
No.
No? Okay, then I will create my own Instagram filter. Now, what is an Instagram filter? An Instagram filter, of course, is something that really messes up your shot, makes it more ugly. But in most cases, they use it actually to create something that's a little bit more moody. Now, what is very important by creating mood? Mood, of course, expression, clothing, lighting, but also color. Color evokes emotion. Think about this. When you walk around the graveyard, is it ever blue? Do you see mist on the floor? Do you hear violence? If so, run. Run like crazy because the zombies are coming. Most of the time when you walk around the graveyard, it's pitch dark, there's no fog, and you certainly don't hear any violence. So why in all the movies do you hear that and do you see it that way? Why is it blue? Very simple, blue, cold. And in our mind it's embedded that if something is blue, it's cold, it's dangerous, it's distance. Perfect for a horror movie, right? But what about love? Make it a little bit brown, magenta, a little bit red, the color of love, right? Well, don't feel like love today with all the cameras falling out, so we're going to use blue. And we already planned that, of course. So I have one of my strobes here with a blue gel. And we're going to do something a little bit different with this gel. So first of all, of course, we're going to power it up, because that's every strobe needs power somehow. Unless you have a battery powered. Duh. As long as I have fun about my own jokes, right? Okay. So we have a blue gel in the back, and I'm not going to use that gel as an accent light. Now, I do want to use it as an accent light first to show you guys what it does. But after that, we're going to do something else with that gel. So let's see how the setting is. See if we can see. Oh, okay. That looks okay. So we're going to move it all the way to the back. Aim it at our model to give it a little bit of a kiss of light. Turn it all the way down. And let's see what happens. Ooh, look that way. Perfect. Now, as you can see, at this moment, it just gives you a little bit of light. But it's not really wow. It's not really that you go like, oh, wow, I'm so glad I watched this Digital Classroom episode. So let's change that. Let's turn it up. a little bit, about one stop. Okay, there we go. Ooh, nice, love it. Okay, look all the way to the beauty dish. Nice. But, nah, I'm not feeling it. I'm still not convinced that this is a great shot. It's okay, it's nice, but I can spend my afternoon better than looking at this, right? Because this is something that doesn't really evoke that emotion yet. It's nice. It evokes emotion in the form of, hey, wow, blue is used. Nice, interesting. Let's change that all the way. So let's just move this all the way forward, actually towards myself. Let's add another 2 or 3 stops. Maybe do it full blast. Why not? Let's do it full power. I'm not going to hit my model anymore. I'm literally aiming it forward. And let's see what happens. And I'm already going to tell you, this is going to suck. This is not going to look nice. But you do get the feeling that we are now doing something else, right? We don't have any accent light on our model anymore, but the whole scene is lit up with this blue dew. Interesting, but not fun. So let's turn that effect down. All the way down. Let's go half. And let's see what happens. Okay, love it. Look a little bit that way. Nice. Oh, this is getting much better. Yep. Maybe even include the strobe a little bit, or maybe shoot into it. Always fun. And because the strobe doesn't really hit the model, there's nothing blowing out on the model. There's actually not even any blue light really hitting the model. It's all hitting my lens, creating lens flare. So the model isn't even touched by the light. Okay, let's give it a little bit more contrast again. Look towards the beauty dish. Nice. Ooh, that's nice. Cool. And final shot. Awesome, thank you so very much. We're gonna retouch. So you are done, my dear. Thank you so very much.
Not the mask.
Oh yeah, the mask. Yes, of course, we still have another set. I almost forgot. Yes, the mask.
Okay.
Make it so. Let me first quickly go over and let's make those images sharp again. And let's go back to my camera. Okay, and the smaller picture in picture. Audio is okay, Annemiek.
Facebook laag is een beetje.
Okay. Okay, so overall, as you can see here, that light from the side and from the back, it really, at least for me, it really enhances the shot from going from, yeah, okay, to something where I go like, ooh, this is really interesting. And I hope you agree with me. It just gives you a totally different look. And later on in Lightroom, we're actually going to do something really cool with this. We're going to actually swift over colors, so that's going to be fun. Okay, so in the meantime, if there are any questions, feel free to ask. So if there are any questions here. No, Annemiek, do you have any questions on Facebook?
No, just audio sometimes.
What's the problem with the audio on Facebook?
Top, it's a little over.
Okay, if it's a little bit over-processed, we're just going to lower the volume just a little bit, so now it should be okay. So some people on Facebook complain that on the top it's a little bit compressed. So we're going to take that down just a little bit. Distortion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
So it should be okay now. There's no more... Okay, no more questions for you guys?
Nope.
Okay, the model is changing. We're going to start very quickly a small commercial for you guys, and then we're going to continue with the final set and then the retouching. You don't want to miss that. The Light of the Old Masters. Isn't that a great title? But what is it? Well, in the old days, we all know those pictures, right? Harcourt, George Hurrell, Film noir. It's that awesome look where you have total light control. Well, this video is all about total light control and mimicking the look of those old masters. But we're going to do way more because we are not in the old times anymore, of course. We are in modern times. So we're going to talk about using flags in a modern studio. Of course, combining continuous lighting with strobes for a film noir look. How to create those really nice harsh shadows on your model, for example, from blinds. And of course, how to get mood in your pictures. I'm going to share a lot of different tips to get a nice glow in your images without breaking the bank. We're going to talk about specialty lenses like the Lens Baby system. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff that really adds that magic of the old masters to your images. The video is available now and I'm 100% sure you're going to love it. It's very technical. But I'm very sure that even if you're a beginner, you get a lot of information out of it. But this is the video about total light control, glamour, the light of the old masters. Available now. Okay, and we're back. So we are waiting for Claudia to change over and she's going to do something a little bit different. For this setup, I'm going to use the strip light. So if any, we can take away the beauty dish and the blue gel and just place the strip light over there. And one of the things that I didn't show you yet with the strip light is, of course, again, you can use it like this, but you can also use it as your main light angled. And that's one of the things that I use the strip light for a lot, to get that really nice attention to detail in your lighting. It's not like a Zorro mask that you're painting over your model, but it does give you something very similar with a really drawn attention to one point and everything else is faded into nice and shadows. So that's for the next setup, so we're going to use the strip light for that. Do we have any questions in the chat? Because we did a lot of stuff, so I'm wondering if people are having any questions. So anyway, do we have any questions on Facebook at the moment? No, I think a lot of people are looking at different stuff at the moment, which is totally understandable, of course. And from our side also, we want to give everything that you can in best thoughts or whatever to everybody that's now living under war situations or oppression or whatever. That's not 2022, guys. 2022 should be a time of peace, of trades, and thinking about the future, climate, and everything else, and not about war. It's not the Middle Ages anymore. So, but that's just my opinion, of course, and I guess a lot of people think otherwise. Otherwise, that stuff wouldn't happen. Okay, Annemiek, is Claudia almost ready?
Yeah, there she goes.
Okay, there she comes. Awesome. That looks great. Chewy, down. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to go in the studio and I'm going to show you guys our next setup. And I'm already going to tell you it's spectacular. I love it.
So maybe you can tell something about professional imaging in May?
Yeah, if everything goes well in May, which dates are it exactly? May?
13, 14, ik zoek het op.
Yeah, you asked me to tell it.
14, 15, 16.
Okay, 14, 15 and 16th of May, we are actually in Nijkerk for professional imaging. So this year we hope that it will continue and of course we hope that we will be there, but as it looks now, we will be there. So on the 14th, 15th and 16th of May, put it in your agenda, professional imaging in the Netherlands. And we are also talking about Photo Days again, Belgium. So that show, we will be there again on the FIDEC booth as it looks now, right?
Yeah,
with
in
Rogier.
October. Yeah, in Brussels.
That was awesome. So we're going to be there in Brussels again doing not the same thing, but we're going to do something different again, but the same concept, like teaching workshops all day long and just having fun with the people there and taking great images, of course, but most of all being very creative. That's what we love. And do we have other trade shows? Maybe in England. We are still negotiating that.
Yeah, we have a workshop next Saturday.
Yeah, next Saturday we have a workshop, Creativity and Styling with Nadine. That's a co-taught workshop where I teach the lighting part and Nadine teaches the styling part for the clothing, and then together we style the set. So first the students go into our meeting room with Nadine to create something with styling, and we do that 3 times during the day. After that, they come into the studio, and that's the first time I'm going to see the styling, and we're going to style the set. We're going to do that together with Nadine. And then after that, I take over and we're going to explain the lighting. So it's a super, super creative workshop where you literally get a lot of information about styling from, I think, one of the best. And Nadine is very good with budgets also, so she can make stuff that's really cheap, look absolutely amazing. And of course, a lot of lighting. So we only have room for 4 people, and there are already 3 in the group. So we only have 1 seat left. So if you're in the Netherlands and you hear this, make sure that you visit us this Saturday. Okay, we are ready for the final set with our model. And after that, we're going to do the retouching, of course. So the picture-in-picture is already set up, Annemiek. You only have to select the cameras. Okay, stand against the wall, please. I love to say that to people. Okay, so for this one, let me just turn it towards the camera so you guys can see what a grid is. So the grid is inside, as you can see. Now, for this setup, I'm going to use the grid, but I'm going to aim it down on our model. Hello, Chewy. He likes you. So we're going to go all the way up, and I'm going to use it like an umbrella aimed down, like this, and then really close to our model. Like dangerously close. Are you still feeling comfortable?
Yes.
Do you trust me? Do you trust me?
Yes.
That's dumb. That's really dumb. Now, I'm trustable. I think, I hope. Okay. So maybe look at the angle. Well, it looks pretty good. Okay, so meter the light. 2.09. Strip light. Each light. So let's go up. Let's do 1. That's 2.8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That should be F4. And that is F4. Almost. Okay. So let's take some shots. F4. And this is a pretty simple lighting setup, but it's so incredibly cool. I always love the outcome of this. Nice. And again, you can move around your model and create really nice, interesting vignettes on the backdrop. Love it. Chin up just a little bit towards the light. There we go. I want those eyes to be lit. There we go. That's awesome. Love it. Okay, can you tilt? Turn. Draaien. Chin down. Yes, there we go. That's nice. Okay, final shots. Do your best. Okay, lean against the wall a little bit backwards. Oh, really like this. That's the nice curve. Love it. I always like to see the S curve in a body. And the previous ones, he was leaning a little bit more forwards, which I didn't like. So now he's leaning a little bit more backwards, and it gives you way better S curve. Love it. Really nice. Final shots. Chin up just a little bit. There we go. That's it. Ooh, love it. Thank you so very much. Awesome. You're done. Now I didn't forget the mask. Okay. Now for the final part, I of course have to take my card out of the camera. And then we're going to do the selecting and retouching and renaming part. And that's going to be a challenge. So, okay. Let me get back to my seat. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Okay. Gonna start a commercial really fast for you guys, because now I have to switch over HDMI ports. So, there we go. Hey guys, Frank here. I'm the author of Mastering the Model Shoot, and you guys love the book because we get rave reviews, and well, it's a very complete book, right? And what is the best thing to do next to the book? You have to see the stuff, right? So you can visit workshops, or you can get instructional videos, and that's actually what we are doing at the moment. We already released Mastering the Model Shoot video 1, the light meter, everything about the light meter. After that, we released On Location with loads of tips on working on location. And that's one of the most challenging things because there's so much going on. And today, we are releasing Video 3, Creativity. And this is one of the most asked questions. How do you get that creativity in your shots? How do you make sure that the images go from okay to wow? So in this video, we talk about everything. Well, everything? That's almost impossible because creativity is so incredibly big. But in this video, we're gonna show you some really cool tips. We talk about styling. How about the photo shoot with Jessica Rabbit? And that's not a joke. How about smoke and gels? How about working with a light blaster, with different lenses, lens flare, breathing on the lens, and there's so much more in this video. So make sure you check out Mastering the Model Shoot Video 3, Creativity. Okay, and we're back. So model is gone, so now it's a little bit more relaxed in the studio. Okay, so the first thing, of course, that you have to do is rename your images. Now, it isn't a secret that Lightroom on the iPad Pro, Lightroom Mobile, or Lightroom CC, however you want to call it, is a great software package, but there are a few things missing. And at one point, it's understandable because you upload everything to the cloud. But there's also something that's really frustrating the living daylights out of me, and that is renaming your files, especially because on the iPad, let's go, for example, into a file system, there isn't any option to rename your file. So, for example, if I go into my file browser here and I go to all my images, I can only see my name. And when I, for example, say, okay, select all and rename more, yeah, there is no rename. So how the heck do I rename 89 images, right? There's no option for that. So that's one of the things that really frustrated me, because at one point, of course, you can go like, okay, let's do this all inside of Lightroom. No, that doesn't work either, because Lightroom can't rename any images. Of course, you can do in Lightroom Classic, but not on Lightroom CC. So I use another app for that, and that's called a File Browser Pro. A File Browser Pro, you can set several options. So let me just go back. You can do private files, my SSD drive, your photo library, and of course something that's on your iPad already. In my case, I just want to go to my SD card. And here you can see all the files that I took. And with File Browser Pro, that's a paid app. There's also File Browser Lite. It does exactly the same, but with less options. Do you need all those options? I don't know. Probably yes, but probably also no. It depends on what you want to do. So let's go for select. Let's do select all. And now I can actually go like here, go to, okay, rename files. And let's call this Claudia. So let's go for Claudia. And of course it's now March. Now the cool thing about this software is that it actually automatically renames the way that I want it. So I've set it up for name and date after, or you can set it before. There's a lot of options. It's more limited than, for example, File Explorer in Windows or in Mac, but it does a really, really good job. So rename images, confirm, yes. Okay, now it's just renaming all my images. And by the way, this is also the software that I use to copy over, for example, video files to our external drives. Because somehow when I use the iPad Pro and I use the internal file system, it often just distorts my images. So sometimes video doesn't play right or is distorted. Sometimes images don't come over or they can't be opened anymore after copying from the iPad. The weird thing is if I copy it to the cloud, it works perfectly. If I use File Explorer of files in the iPad Pro, it doesn't work at all. By using File Browser Pro, it does work. So I'm just using 2 File Browsers Pro in that case. So I'll just open up another one and just place that on that side. And then, for example, just choose my SSD drive and then just copy everything over to the SSD. It just works faster and it doesn't give me any problems. So File Browser, absolutely, I highly recommend it. I'm not sponsored by them. They did give me the software, by the way, but I'm not sponsored by them or affiliated. They just gave it to me because I'm very enthusiastic about it, and I ran into that problem, and they asked me like, hey, what do you want? And I said, I would love your software to do this. And they actually added that to the software and they gave me a version. So that's awesome, you know, a company that really listens to their users. Awesome File Browser Pro, really cool. Okay, let's go for Lightroom. Okay, let's create a new folder. So let's do an album, and let's call that Claudia. So Claudia, I don't know why the S. Claudia, okay. And let's just import. So import from, I always do from files. Somehow I just find it easier. Okay, select all, and just open. Okay, now it will take a little while, and it will import all those images on my iPad Pro. Now, I've set it up that normally when I travel, all the originals will stay on my iPad Pro, and all the files will also go into the cloud. Now, of course, one of the most asked questions, I even get one this morning, Ineke, if you're watching, you're going to get your answer now. How do you save space on your iPad or on your phone, but still back up all the images? It depends on the subscription you have. So with us, we can use 1 terabyte, which is plenty enough space for a normal holiday. What do I say? Plenty enough space for a normal holiday. You can do several holidays, of course, on 1 terabyte. So it's a lot of room. What you can set up in your Lightroom is actually go for your app settings. I believe it's in your app settings. Go for a local storage and actually say that you only want to store. It's not there, it's in cloud storage, sorry. So only download smart pre-files. What actually happens is if you do that, you can just upload your files, and if you clear your cache, it will just keep those smart previews there. So it doesn't take up any space on your iPad Pro. If you want to retouch, you are retouching on the smart previews, so you don't really see a difference. It's in resolution, of course, you see a huge difference. If you have a selection, what I normally will do, I will select the images that I really like, and then I will tell Lightroom, get the original files, because that just works a little bit faster, especially if you want to go to Photoshop or any other software. I just like to work with the original files. But saving a lot of space on your device is of course important, because you are limited in your space on your device. And the iPad Pro isn't that flexible that you can say, hey, store that on the hard drive and use it. It always has to, that's one of the frustrating parts about this device. It always has to be like in the iPad Pro, you can use external devices, but you really can't use external devices. Except, for example, with LumaFusion, you can now edit from an external hard drive. Thank you so very much for that. I would love for Lightroom to support something like that. Just let us edit from an external hard drive. Come on, guys. Then we can use 2 or 6 terabytes or whatever we want. So I think that's the only thing that's a little bit frustrating. Okay, so how do I my selection? What I normally do is I will just go through the images, and as you can see here, when I go up, I can give stars on the left side of my screen, and when I do it on the right side of the screen, I can actually do it ignore, neutral, or select. Now I'm a star, guys. I love to do star. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out all the images that I don't like. So I'm just going to swipe that on the right side of the frame. Bye. So this is not really a bad image, so I will just leave them in for now. And I will only take out what I really don't like. So the eyes are too dark, I don't like those eyes. Those eyes are too much on the side. Oh, it's okay, no. No, and these are also expressions that you don't, these are the expressions that your model also won't like. For the very simple reason, it's not 100% right, so just take those images out. You know, there are more than enough images that are right. I do like this one. That was a mistake, by the way, don't worry. And okay, that's too dark on one side. Ooh, I really love that one. I like that one a lot. Okay, side I like. This is also cool. I always love those side lighting images, I don't know why. Ooh, look at that expression, wow. That's awesome, just give it 5 stars immediately. That's one that melts you. Love it. This one also, by the way, I don't know why, but because he's looking down somehow, it just gives me a nice 3-dimensional look. So let's give it 5 stars. Oh, look at that face. That's awesome. Yeah, no. The reason I'm saying no is because of the skin over there. And that's something in a pose that she does. And now Claudia is a very skinny model, so this is something that I'm not going to do. If I have a plus-size model, then I have no problems with it, because that's how a model is, and I'm not going to take that away. It's beautiful, right? Everybody's beautiful the way that they are. But in the case of a model like Claudia, we don't want that skin over there, because that's not exactly how she is, and I always want to capture the person itself. And in this case, it's very difficult to take that out in Photoshop. Everything is squeezed together. It's not something that I like. Although I like the face, but hey, what you could do if you really love it is just crop it. And then you get something like this. But, okay, maybe. I don't know. Could be. Okay, I love this one. Look at that. So give that 5 stars immediately. Okay, I love those two. Let them find something with the blue. Oh, by the way, if I see an image that I don't really like for example this one, let's just immediately delete that. This one is okay. That one is not. That one is not. No. So this is my whole selection process. This is literally how I select my images, just going through the images, looking at all the images, sometimes going back and forth, but it's always for me very, very quickly, as you can see. Some people will probably think like, oh my God, Frank, you're going so fast. I always tell people, it's a little bit like that DVD from Shrek from many, many years ago. There was this menu where you saw a donkey going up, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me, and it was really frustrating, but it was so much fun. So we always let it on the menu, pick me, pick me. And for me, selecting an image in Lightroom is exactly the same as donkey. If you go really fast through it, the really great images will jump out immediately. If there's an image and I go like, I don't know, let me look. Yeah, it's sharp. Yeah, I like the reflections, maybe. That doesn't work for me, because if I have to look so long to see if I like an image, it's crap. For the very simple reason, you have to look at an image, ooh, that's nice, and not, maybe. No, wow. Nothing less, wow. So as soon as I go through my images like this, sometimes I will stop a little bit, like for example, I really like this, but I don't like that she's angled that way. So you could fix that by using your crop tool. For example, I like this more. Now we have more that S-curve. So I can leave it in. But when I look at something like this, I just like the expression a lot more. So this will get 5 stars. Oh, okay, light in the back. Okay, maybe. Nope. And you have to be really, really harsh, because you already know that you got great shots. So why save all the images that are mediocre? Because the main problem is sometimes a model will ask for all the images. So just make sure that you deleted everything where you're not 100% confident about. And then when your model wants to see the images and said, hey, can you retouch one more? That's always the images that you are behind anyway, right? Because you only keep what you like. Okay, so let's go through those images really fast for now. Okay, these are okay. Oh, look at the difference here. Do you see in the pose that she's standing? I like this one, but more for the lighting. I like that the light is falling over. It looks okay. But then, when I go to this one, whoa, look at that. Look at the difference. Do you see that? And the weird thing is, it's very, very subtle. But I'm just having my camera slightly lower. And it just gives me a way better image for me. Okay, I like that too. Too dark. This is where I told her to look into the light with her eyes. Look at that, that's awesome. I don't like that one. And you can swipe down. You can also, of course, just select it in the bottom part. Okay, this one is nice. It's okay. Like that one too. No. Now I'm going a little bit faster for you guys. Okay, that was all. So what I will now do is I will go into my filter upstairs, and I will just go to everything that has a cross. I will say select all. Select all. And then just press remove and delete. Okay. Now normally when I'm on a normal computer, I will now actually rename all the files. For the very simple reason, if somebody then says, hey, I want to see all your files, very simple, you will get files, 61 files instead of 98, and they are all labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and up. If you delete images like now my model will get 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 14, 20, and she will go like, hey, what happened to all the other images? And somehow, I don't know if you ever experienced that with clients, somehow they have this really weird twist in their mind that they think they own all the images that you shoot because it's their images. No, it's not. It's my images, and you paid for a photo shoot. I'm going to deliver you images, exactly what I promised, but you're not going to select the images. You're not going to retouch the images. You're not going to do anything to the images. It's my work. And I think you as a photographer should be very, very clear about this. Don't touch my images. The reason I'm telling you this, and I'm taking a little bit more for this, is very simple. A few years ago, I did a portfolio review for a model, and I was going through her portfolio, and I was going like, ooh, I really like those shots. Ooh, really like that shot. Oh, one moment. Annelie, can you please look at the screen that I don't lose any images and my audio keeps going up instead of, because of the batteries? So
Okay.
just keep looking at the screen. That's all you have to do. Okay, so now I can only focus on my iPad. It's a little bit easier because normally I have to look at that screen and this screen. And Annelie just joined us again, so hey, there she is. Okay, so I was going through a portfolio and I saw some great images. And then one image just drew my attention. It was, wow, love the lighting, like the three-dimensionality. And I was looking like, man, must have done a workshop with me because it's literally something that I would like. And it's something, you know, you do recognize your own shots, but I was just going like, I can never shoot something like this because the crop was terrible. It was literally insanely terrible. So I was going like, yeah, I like those shots, I like the lighting, but I would take that image out because it looks horrendous. And she was going like, why? I said, it just doesn't look right. It just doesn't feel like right. Your nose is against the side of the frame. You have a lot of space behind. No. And she said, well, it's one of your shots. And I was just shocked. And I was going like, what did you say? One of my shots? One moment. No. So what she actually did, yeah, not yet. What she actually did is she cropped my image the way that she liked it. So imagine this. So this is my greatly lit image. So what does the model do? I don't like it that much. I like this way better. Yeah, I like that. I just go like, what the heck did you do to my image? Why? And she was going like, yeah, I like my face there and I like my head. No. So this is where I always tell my model, if you want to do a crop, call me and I will do it for you. Because if she wanted to crop like this, I would probably just do it like this. Okay, you like your head? Okay, no problem. So let's twist it a little bit. Let's give it a little bit more room here. Okay, you want it on that side. Great. This is a crop where I can stand behind. It's square, but it's always better than what she did, right? So I have a contract where we actually tell people, stay away, get your paws off my images. If you want to change something, email me and I promise you that I will do it. Okay, Tom de Wit says, Adobe Bridge is nice to reimage image. Yes, Tom, Adobe Bridge is awesome to retouch image. Can you please tell me how to get it on my iPad Pro? Because I'm not using any computers today. And that's the main problem. File Browser Pro is the only way at this moment that I know to batch rename images on the iPad Pro. The reason I know it because I was looking like crazy for an app to do batch renaming. And I saw File Browser Pro and I just emailed them like, hey, you have everything there except batch file renaming. Why would you want that? I said, well, I'm a photographer, and I just told them the story and they were going like, okay, we can do that. And after that, they did some fine tuning together with me, and now you have something that's really aimed at photographers for renaming. So get File Browser, and hey, it's free, so why not? Or get the Pro version and support those guys, because they're awesome. Okay, so overall, let me go first to the images. So how many did I select? So everything with 5 stars. Okay, that's okay, 8 images. Okay, let's go through them. Okay, I still love this one. Yeah, I love it. Also love it, love it. Yeah, I like it a lot. Don't know. Yep. Ooh, better. Yeah, we can use them all. Why not? Okay, now the first thing I always do is I will just imagine myself going through those images and then thinking about, okay, what do I want? What is the look that I want? And I created a profile pack, and those profile packs, they're presets, by the way. They're sold for, I believe, 10 euros. You can buy them online at our website. Let me see if I have a link over there. Yeah, this is the one to the videos, this link. The only thing you have to change is change videos for presets. Or just go there and go to the menu. You will find the presets. And the cool thing, if you join our Patreon, you will actually get the preset pack for free if you join within this week. So if you join before the weekend, I will guarantee you, even if you pay €1 and stay for at least a few months, of course, if you join our Patreon before Saturday, I will give you my whole preset pack for free. And these are exactly the same presets that I use. I don't believe in light preset packs or whatever. I believe that if you buy a preset pack, even if it's for 10 euros, you have the preset pack that I use and that I actually designed. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go just through the presets. I'm going to find something that I really like and fitting for this shot. Now, I already saw one that I really liked, but I'm going to go a little bit further. Ooh, also like that one. That's a little bit too much. Now, these are basic settings, so you have to change them a lot often to get what you want. But I really already saw a few that I like, and I have to choose which one. Ooh, now that's awesome. Okay, so press done. How many do I have in that style? So I will do first my proper preset editing. So I'm going to take my Apple Pencil, and I'm going to do a little bit in the retouching part. I really like that. In color, we can do a little bit of vibrance maybe, yes, and then pull down the saturation maybe. Love it. Let's go by effects, and let's do a little bit of vignette. Okay, let's feather the vignette a lot. There we go. I really like this. So let's go for light, and let's do a little bit of curves. So a little bit shadow, a little bit in the highlights. There we go. Love it. Okay, copy settings. Okay, go for, oops, come here. Go for paste. Awesome. Now this is the slow way. You don't want to do this. So let's go back. What you want to do is select. You're going to go to the first one. You're going to say copy. Settings copied. Now what you do is you're going to select all the other ones and you're going to say paste. And that works so much better. Now this wasn't possible before on the iPad. It's been possible now for a while, don't worry. But in the past, the weird thing was I also use Androids. And with Android, this was in there for a long time. I don't even remember when it came in there. I always did it like this. So when I picked up my iPad, I was going like, okay, that doesn't work. So make sure that you sometimes check if something was brought out that's new, because Lightroom is constantly updating. Okay, so done. Okay, love this, love this. Yeah, love the look. This one I don't really like, so let's make that a little bit darker. Ooh, really like that. But if you make something darker, you also saturate your colors a little bit more. So let's take down that vibrance and saturation. There we go, love it. Okay, that's part one. Okay, let's go for this one. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to go through my presets, and I'm going to find one that and of course, normally I already know which one I want to do, but for you guys, I'm just going to go through them. Now, there are a lot of presets here, but let me just pick this one. I really like this. Okay, now I promised you guys that I wanted to show you guys a trick with those colors, right? Watch this. This was shot, if I hold and press it, as you can see, with blue on the left and nothing on the right. So the right side should be normal, right? Now, I did forget one thing, because all the cameras had a problem. I didn't shoot a color checker, which is really dumb. Because normally, Annelie, can you give me a color checker, please?
Oh, someone didn't put it.
No, it's on the stand of the strobes. Annelie, it's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. If you can give it to me. Okay. Now, normally you always shoot at least one image with a color checker. And on the color checker, you do your color balance. So you do your color balance or you create a profile. Now, in the case of profiling, you do still need a normal desktop computer. But as soon as you have that profile, you can put that profile, of course, in your Lightroom on your mobile device. So the color checker, we already work with profiles, but normally during Digital Classroom, I show you guys how to do the color checker. But because of COVID, we don't want models to be holding the color checkers. And because the last 2 years we've done with a lot of COVID regulations, I did sometimes forget it. Now, normally during the workshops, we take an image where I just hold the color checker in front of me, or Anouk or one of the students. During the live stream, we forgot, but don't forget the color checker. These are vital, really. Without these, you never get a proper color in your images, because all cameras, they do have slightly different colors. For example, Sony is a little bit too blue, Nikon is a little bit too yellow, Canon is a little bit magenta in the skin tones. With something like this, you just even the field and you make everything perfect as a base. After that, you can, of course, edit to your heart's content. Okay, so now I want to show you something. So let's go for color, and let's go for color temperature. Now, on the right side, there was a blue gel, right? So if I move this here, the color temperature, you can see, let me take the pencil again, that I can actually change the amount of blue in the image, but I can also change the amount of red in the image. I can even make it all the way gone. And this is a very, very powerful technique, because with this, by only using one light with a gel and one light normal, I can always combine it. So this looks a little bit like it was, but if I say, hey, I want it a little bit more magenta on the other side, because we're using really thick saturated gels, you are very, very able. And this is, of course, when you shoot RAW. If you shoot JPEGs, forget about it. That doesn't work. So with just using your color temperature, you can already freak out with colors. It's really cool. Okay, let's change. There we go. I really like this. Okay, let's do a little bit more contrast in the image. Let's drop the exposure. Now, of course, I'm using a light meter, and that means that my images are correctly exposed. But with these kinds of presets, we do use a lot of curves, color manipulation. So it can be that your lighting will go down or sometimes even go up. So changing exposure on a RAW file like this, you don't need to. This is perfectly exposed. So if you start building from here, don't change exposure. If you use presets, exposure can change a little bit, but as you can see here, it's almost nothing. It's almost even on 0, it looks great. It's more personal taste. Okay, I really like this. Okay, let's do the same thing here, but I'm just going to show you without the preset so you can see better what color temperature does. I can make it blue, or I can even take the blue completely out. So I can literally make blue very, very dominant, make it like a nice balance, or take it all the way out even. So you can always go back if you shoot with gels, and if you just take proper distance. This is also why the blue doesn't hit the model. Now you know why, because now I have way more latitude in my adjustments. Okay, let's do the same thing again. Let's copy. So copy and paste. Awesome. Do check. But this is one of the main advantages of using a light meter. Those images will look about the same. Maybe a little bit more contrast here, because I have a little bit more of that lighting. Yeah, shouldn't have changed anything. Okay, final one, and then we're going to do skin. That's going to be fun. So again, we're going to look for something cool. And you know what? Let's not do anything. Let's start it up from the bottom. So let's go for light. First things first, a little bit of contrast, and then open up the exposure again. Maybe protect the highlights, give a little bit more shadow. Okay, let's go for color. Now in color we have a few options to retouch your images. Now for most people you will start out with, of course, curves. So when we go here, you can actually start out with curves by using, of course, your normal curve, your S curve. There we go. But did you know that you can also do it for red? For example, take some red out of the shadows, put it into the highlights, and then finish it off with blue to give it a little bit more of a cooler tint, as you can see here. If you like that, that's okay. There we go. But let's just go back. Let's not do it with curves. You can also do it in color with color mix. Now, color mix is the well-known color mix, hue, saturation, and luminance. Now, hue, of course, is the hue of the color. The luminance is the brightness of the color, and the saturation is the saturation. Duh. However, there's something that you have to know. If you look at red and you pump up the saturation, you can see that her lips get redder, right? But watch this. If I lower the luminance, it also looks like it's getting more saturated. So those two in combine can give you really cool effects. Now there's not a lot of orange here, except in the face a little bit, so you can literally just do this. As you can see here, I'm already building a certain look, maybe with the hue a little bit. There we go. And the yellows, of course. Always go up and down to see where it is. There we go. Okay, so get a before and after look. There we go, love it already. But that's color mix. We also have something called color grading. Now this is way nicer because now I can do shadows, midtones, highlights, and of course global. And it's just a little bit of a ball that you just draw. So in this case, this is my shadows. Let's do a lot of blue in the shadows, love it. And then a little bit of red in the midtones, more towards yellow maybe, there we go. A little bit of red in the highlights, or maybe also, ooh, this is nice. Cool it down just a little bit, like it. And then global, let's go for a little bit towards magenta. There we go, and of course you can change the luminance also. Great, love it. Yep, and this of course you can store as a create preset and then just go for FD, do it in FD and do it slide cross DC. Digital Classroom, hey. Okay, I really like it. Okay, do the same thing, copy and paste. Okay. Now overall, if I have a client, I can already show the images now, like, okay, hey, here we have your images, there you go, do you like it? Oh yeah, I really like it, cool, nice. Is it done yet? No, far from, but they do like the images, right? So now I can still change everything around. So let's do that. Let's start with this one. I'm not going to do all the images, I just want to show you very quickly how it goes. Okay, let me see, first some questions. Let me see, how do you get the presets in Lightroom Mobile? That's actually difficult and very, very simple. You have to do it on the computer. So on the desktop you import the presets and you sync them with Lightroom CC. So you don't import them in Lightroom Classic, you import them in Lightroom CC. As soon as they're on the desktop on Lightroom CC, they will also be on your mobile devices. So it's pretty simple. If you don't figure it out, Ineke, just email me and I will help you out with it. No problem at all. Okay, so one of the things that we have to do with model photography, at least I think we have to do, is do skin retouching. But I'm one of those guys that love skin retouching, but I don't like Barbie dolls. Now, I don't know why, but it always looks fake, like those whole beautiful skin shouldn't be totally like a Barbie doll or porcelain. It should be a little bit realistic. Okay, so zoom in. And of course, Claudia already has a great skin, so we're done. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, first of all, in my initial preset, there's a little bit of texture in there, 37. So if I pull that down, you can already see that the skin gets a little bit nicer and softer. Let's turn that texture all the way down. Ooh, really like that. But it was on 37, so let's leave it there. Okay. So how do we retouch the skin? Okay, I'm going to retouch the skin and I'm going to try to do it as nicely as possible with my limitation of how everything is set up. And this isn't the perfect setup, so if I'm a little bit sloppy, I'm sorry. Go for brush. Now in my case, I will do a small brush, mostly around 10 or 9 or whatever. The cool thing about Lightroom on the iPad is if I zoom out and I start to paint, you can see that I can cover a lot of area, right? But if I zoom in, that's what I said, it's a little bit difficult like this, that whole area becomes a lot smaller, as you can see here. And when you zoom in really close, it becomes a really small pencil almost. Now again, I'm going to do it really rough for you guys, and you guys can do it much better if you do it slower, but I'm going to do it really fast. Okay, so I'm going to do the skin. I can't fast forward this because it's a live stream, so that's why I told you guys I'm going to do it really rough, and just to give you an idea. Okay. Let's zoom all the way out and let's do this. Okay. And if you mess up, there's not a real problem, because this is the brush, but with the Apple Pencil, now watch this, if you double tap, it will actually change over to the eraser tool. So now I have the eraser here. Okay, let's say that we're done with this. Now I'm going to do the skin. So I'm going to double click to make sure that I see enough detail. I always zoom in a little bit more. Go for effects. Now this is how I do it. I've seen a lot of different options, but this is what I really like to do. So I will draw the texture all the way down first, way too much. And then I will zoom out just a little bit and I will use clarity to see if I like contrast in or out. In the case of Claudia, I actually like it in a little bit, not too much. And then I'm going to bring my texture back. Not too much, just a little bit. There we go, that looks better. Of course, you can always press on the bottom, on the top part, and change your mask. Because as soon as you start drawing, it doesn't show you the red mask anymore. But if you go up here, you can literally just toggle that on and off. And if you press the 3 dots, you can actually also say, I want to have it in green or in blue. You can have a tool overlay, show always, and you have a lot of options depending on what you want. Okay, so what you can also do is go into detail and just pull down the sharpness all the way. But this is way too much, and you will see that in a second. This becomes very, very unnatural. I like to add a little bit of noise and then just bring back the sharpness. So in this case it was way too little, way too much. So this is about what I like. So press done. Now zoom in and you can see the difference before and after. It's very, very subtle, but it just gives you a nicer glow over your model. Now of course there are parts in our model that are a little bit too much detail, right, on the nose and maybe under her eyes. So that's where we create a second one. So press plus, say brush, and just go under her eyes. Go here, maybe a little bit here, maybe here just a little bit. So the first layer is literally to just give it a nice glow. And now in effects I will just press down on texture and play with clarity to blend them nicely together. And of course you can use dehaze to open up or slide down some information. There we go. Okay, so that looks pretty okay. Yep, looks a lot better. And of course smaller parts you can do with your eraser tool or, with your healing tool. Now in this case we want it smaller. I'll just take something out. And there you go. Press the opacity to 100 to take it out. Now I always use heal on skin and clone on backdrops. Okay, so that looks pretty cool. Now, of course, sometimes you want the backdrop to be in the picture too. You want the backdrop to be really oomph, right? Wow. Okay, so go for selective adjustments and get a new brush. Make it a lot bigger. And actually I want everything to be nice and contrasty. So just paint over your whole image. Hey, we can't work with layers. Okay, double tap to go for the eraser. Make your brush a lot smaller and just very roughly take out everything that has skin. Again, I'm doing it really rough, so don't think like, hey, Frank is retouching like this. No. Normally I'm zooming in and I'm doing really nice retouching, but hey. And in all honesty, it only takes me about 10 or 15 minutes per shot. So in the live stream, because I'm also explaining, we're about at the same time. But it just works nicer if you do really zooming in, and that's something that's possible on the iPad. Okay, so now everything is selected except the model, so now I can just go all the way with my texture on the backdrop and my clarity. Look at this. So really make that backdrop jump out. So before and after. If there's still something on the arms, for example, the arms are a little bit too red and magenta, as you can see here. Go for local adjustments, and that's normal, by the way, because the light is falling off, so the shadows, and because we use tinting, the shadows have a slightly different hue and color as the original, so that means that you get some slight like magenta tints or sometimes yellow, and it doesn't look right. So just painting. There we go. Double tap for the eraser and just make it a little bit nicer. There we go. And then just go for color and just pull down the saturation. And if you're in doubt, you can even do tint. And change color temperature. And just paint in the effect if you want it a little bit more or less. And of course use the eraser again for areas where you don't want the effect. Okay, there you go. So it looks a little bit better. Right, in the original it's the same color, and now we're close. You have to work it out a little bit more. But the idea, right? Okay, let's go for a little bit more extreme. Here we have one that is bluish. And as you can see here, normally when you are in Photoshop and you use those skin filters, they're very sensitive for blue gels for the very simple reason they look at skin tones. Sometimes they even mask out, for example, our backdrop because it also has skin tones in there. So in this case, let's do it a little bit faster. Let's only focus on the face. So let's just do it like this. And sometimes this is also the way, it just depends on my mood. Sometimes I will just go like this, and kind of like, okay, boom, done. Then I will zoom in, double tap, and I will just take out the eyes. Oh, that sounds really gruesome, but you know what I mean. It's not like the Evil Dead. Okay, there we go. So I still don't know what I prefer and what's faster, but hey, sometimes just change it up. There we go. Very quick way of retouching skin, as you can see, and it just gives you very, very nice results. Okay, you can do the same thing with the backdrop again. But in this case, let's just do something else. Let's just open up some detail. So in this case, let's say that I want the, let's play with the dress. So let's play with the dress. So first off, let's take a brush, and I'm not going to do anything yet. Now, as you know, when you paint, you get the mask, right? Now, if I change something, like for example highlights, the mask disappears unless I turn it on and turn it off. Okay, so now I changed exposure and highlights. I don't want to change exposure. So I'm going to go back. Okay, so I'm just going to do highlights on full blast. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint over all the highlights in my image. There we go. Nice. Okay, we can do the same thing for shadows, of course. Create a new layer, brush, and in this case we're gonna paint our shadows. So let's make the shadows a little bit darker. Okay. And finally, we're going to do one with exposure. So just give it a little bit of exposure. Okay. That's way over the top, of course. So let's pull that down a little bit. There we go. And then go for the other one. There you go. Raise the shadows or lower the shadows, and now by just clicking on it I have a sort of painting with light area where I can literally just say, okay, I want it a little bit less or a little bit more, but by painting in shadows and highlights I can literally just sort of paint with light. So let's look at the original again, and this one, it's very subtle, but as you can see the dress just pops out a little bit more. Now again, don't overdo this. If you overdo it, it just looks terrible and it looks fake as can be. If you do it right, it just gives you a little bit more detail in those highlights and those shadows, just creating a little bit more contrast, and contrast perceived as more sharpness, more detail. Okay. Look at the difference in dress. Really, really like it. Okay, finally, this one. Okay, in this case, you can also do the selective editing. So let's say I want to open up that mask a little bit. So I'm not going to do skin anymore. So let's just do plus. And let's take a big brush. And let's open up the mask. Okay. And then don't go for exposure. That looks fake as can be. But go for example, highlights. Go for shadows. You see that that looks totally different than just bumping up exposure. And then just finish it up with contrast, for example. There you go. Really nice. Love it. And now if you say, oh, but I like the rest a little bit darker. Yes, you can do that too. So go for local adjustments, go for the plus. You can also copy, of course, the mask, but in this case we're just going to do it like this. And just make it really, really big. Okay. Now you might say, hey Frank, why don't you take out the original part where you lit everything up? if you want to do that, unless you copy the mask over, it will never work because you can never make that selection 100%. So that's why it's cool in Lightroom that you can actually select and manipulate both adjustment layers. It's not an adjustment layer, the masks later. So watch this. We're first going to make it really dark. Dark and moody. There we go. Love it. But now I'm going to take this one. I'm just going to say, okay. Just open up that a little bit more. And now I do use exposure, as you can see. There we go. Now you zoom in, and now with your eraser tool, and this is a lot of work, you just go through here. It's on the iPad, it's not really a lot of work. And let's be honest, you don't have to do everything perfectly. A lot of people don't see this. It's 64 megapixel files, and nobody zooms in like this. But hey, if you want to do it perfect, be my guest. I would make sure that it doesn't jump out like, hey, that sucks. But I only want the mask and the eyes, of course, to light up, and everything else should be nice and dark. Okay. Oops. And now the cool thing is, if I'm on that bottom part, I can literally just take my brush and, for example, say, hey, let's just open this up, make a really small brush, and just go over here and just paint that in. Now with painting in, I'm always very sloppy, as you can see here. Because with painting in, I found out that it's really difficult to do it nicely within the lines. Okay, and then when I go for my eraser tool, that's where I'm going to lower that size a lot. So really low. And then I'm going to literally just fade out those sides. And taking it away with the eraser tool, it's much more precise than trying to keep it within the lines. But you will find out when you start doing this, especially when you zoomed in like crazy like this, it's really handy to do. Because this is full resolution, and here you can see, you hardly see the problems. Of course, you can do much better, but hey. So before and after. But the main idea is you have to make that selection perfect. And when you don't make that selection perfect, which is almost impossible, you will always see those little lines where you see that overlap between the retouched part and the not retouched part. By doing it like this, you are actually using that one layer that's actually the whole image, as you can see here. I can manipulate it and I can do stuff, but as you can see, the more I open it up, that part over the eyes will always be brighter than the rest. So as long as you can manipulate those two together, you can actually balance it very, very nicely without seeing those nasty border areas. I hope that makes sense, but if you've done this before, you know exactly what I mean. It's one of the biggest problems to get it right. Okay, so overall I think, yep, pretty happy with the results. The skin retouching is the only one that really takes time because you have to make it nice and you have to do it perfect, of course. Okay, now one more thing about hairs flying away. What I don't take out are these. I don't know, I don't really find those annoying. I do find this one annoying. Now, normally I will do this in Photoshop and that works like a charm, for example with Content Aware Fill, and even on Photoshop on the iPad Pro you can take it out pretty easily. But I also want to show you what we do on the iPad Pro. Now, this is far from perfect, but it's a getting away with it kind of thing. And this one will probably suck because there's a lot of stuff on the backdrop, but for the technique it's going to work. Okay, so what I'm doing normally is I will just select some of the hairs, so not everything, and I will do it in stages. So I will not come too close because you get that fading out effect. I'll just creep closer and closer towards where I need to be. But I will do it in steps. There you go, and the nicer the backdrop is, the better the result will be. There we go. Okay, now that final part, as you can see here, that's a little bit of a fade out effect, which I really don't like. So for that I'm going to switch over to the clone tool, and I'm actually going to make it pretty big and feather it like crazy, like 100%, and then just drop the opacity slightly. And now I'll just try to make it nice and even on the sides. There you go. And there we go, before and after. So it's just a few seconds work, but it just looks better, right? And now I'm annoying the heck out of that one, by the way. So So let's take that one out too. This one. Okay, and there you see that fading effect. So go for the clone tool. Oh, sorry, go for healing first. And then when I make the new one, so press done, new one, clone. And that's where you go a little bit closer. There you go. Okay, awesome. So in essence, the challenge for me, let me switch over to the main camera. I have to be honest with you guys, when I started this whole adventure with using an iPad Pro, it actually started a little bit as a joke. And I actually told Anouk, hey, I need a new iPad anyway, I'm going to order the iPad Pro 11-inch, and I'm just going to try it. And Anouk told me like, hey man, you're so used to Lightroom and Photoshop on the computer, you will probably not switch to the iPad Pro. And I had the same idea. It actually ended up that I bought the 12.9-inch iPad Pro and gave Anouk the 11-inch, which she absolutely loves. And the reason is it's so much easier to work on the iPad. And over time, trust me, you get a little bit faster on the iPad than on the computer. It doesn't make any sense because on the computer, of course, you have your XP pen tablets or whatever you want to use. And it just works like a charm. Let me show you what we use on the computer. So if this big XP pen with a little pen here, and it's huge. It's like 27-inch. It's wonderful. It works like a charm, and it's really, really precise. But I always have to be in the studio. So I always have to be here, and I want to be at home on the couch, for example, while Anouk is cooking, and just wait for dinner, and on the while just retouch my images. The iPad Pro makes it possible to just work in every single location where you are, even on the restroom. Yes, we all know we do it, right? So, not me, of course. No. And the best thing about this workflow is actually that when I take out my phone and I power it up, that a few seconds later, on a Lightroom on my phone, and you saw that I didn't use my phone today at all, but as soon as I start it up, you already see that Claudia is being edited, and we're already at 61 images in. It's already there. So it's really nice to see. Let me see if I can show you that very quickly. Connected to a Samsung DeX. I don't want Samsung DeX. I want this. There we go. Okay. As you can see, here's Claudia. And I can literally just sort on 5 stars. And you can see my retouch. There you go. That's already the retouched images. So that's just a huge benefit, because now when I'm done on my iPad, I can take all these images here. I can put my my signature in there, so my logo. Oh, by the way, there's a lot of people that ask me about the logo. So let me connect the iPad again. And then I can just upload it to social media. On the iPad Pro, I always find uploading to social media is not my thing. Somehow on the phone it works like a charm. On the iPad I'm always struggling with Facebook, and it just doesn't work nicely. So I always do that from my phone. So let me just switch this over. So if you want your logo in there, it's not that hard. You just go for, let's say, share. And you can do a lot of stuff here. Editing Photoshop, we don't do that here. Export as. And the only thing you have to do is include watermark. I don't know why a lot of people say that it's not possible. You have to press customize. And there you go, you now have a graphic in there. And in the past, it was not possible to do a graphic. It was always text. Now, I recently talked to somebody who said, well, I will never use Lightroom on the iPad because you can't put a text, you can't put my logo in there. And I was going like, when did you check updates? And he was going like, yeah, it's useless, so I'm never checking updates. I said, please use updates, because the logo with text is already in there for a year. A lot of people don't know it. You can place the logo wherever you want. It's really nice. You can change the size of the logo, your opacity, you can do your horizontal offset, your vertical offset. So you have a lot of options here for your logo, and you can do whatever text you want. I would do it PNGs, because then you have your transparency, of course. So it looks really nice. Okay, let me switch back to my camera. And Anouk, do we have any messages that we have to do?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's the backgrounds.
what do you want with the backdrops?
If people want to have the same backgrounds as you are using,
Yeah, but that backdrop isn't... Oh, yeah, it is.
It
There we
is.
go. Okay, so if you go for... If you like my backdrops, go for the Click Prop Backdrops catalog. You know the image, that's Nadine. And they have a signature series called Frank Doorhoff. And actually the wall that we used today is this one. And it's called the two-tone textured wall.
and it comes in different sizes.
And it comes in different sizes. So you can't have me in your studio, but you can have a piece of me in your studio. And it's so lame, but hey. Click Pro backdrops, awesome stuff. And they have the signature series for Frank Doorhoff. They also have the opulent red, which I really like. Okay, I think that is it for the mobile workflow. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Share it with other people. If you have any suggestions for Digital Classroom, just let us know, because we are always open for new and different things. Maybe you want me to see do a whole photo shoot with a phone. Why not? Please don't. But if you want, I will do it. So, and after all, thank you so very much. And again, everybody that's suffering on the war or oppression, hang in there, stay safe. And I strongly believe that in 2022, we should just communicate with each other and not exterminate each other. So really goes to my heart to see what's happening in Ukraine. Let's give all those people prayers or whatever you do. Just think about them, and let's hope that this madness ends very, very quickly. Thank you so very much for watching, guys. From the Netherlands, I sign off and see you again next time. Because when is the next Digital Classroom, Anouk? In about 4 weeks.
March 23.
March
It's
23.
about 3 weeks.
3 weeks, and we don't know what we're going to do yet. We're going to announce that. So subscribe to our channel, and you will see it. And this Saturday, we have another workshop, so also another vlog. We try to do the vlogs every time we do a workshop. So this Saturday, you will see another Behind Closed Doors. We're going to pick that up slowly.